Next up, we have Ingo from KILT, who will be discussing SocialKYC, a new way to incorporate all your social credentials, control your certificates, and build a true digital identity online. Insured via the KILT blockchain and accessible via a browser extension wallet, SocialKYC is like your Web 3.0 version of login with Google, Apple, or Facebook. Simple and secure without Web 2 giants between you and the web services you use. Over to Ingo, who's joining us from the Polkadot Decoded main stage in Berlin. Welcome, Ingo.
Thank you. Yeah, really great to be here. About SocialKYC. Let's start with going a little bit into what is actually digital identity. Digital identity consists of basically two things. One of them being credentials. This is basically attributes of a user, so the ability to do something or the right to do something or the duty. And those credentials are collected and they are all connected to one identifier. So an identifier together with a lot of credentials actually makes up your digital identity. Now, when we look into the internet as it is today, starting in 2000 basically, we see that this is centralizing very much. The biggest identity providers are actually Google and Facebook and Apple and all those companies actually. And that might be a bit of a problem because when we look at it from a technological side, it looks like this. This is very much platform-centered, as you see. The claimer, which is the user, signs up with a platform, then the keys of the user already belong to the platform. And then the user starts to behave somehow on this platform, and this is generating credentials, but those credentials are generated on the platform and they're not even shared with the user. And when the user now goes to another service and use one of those buttons from the last slide, sorry, then the platform actually starts sharing credentials with the others. So think of you logging into WhatsApp or something. Then WhatsApp talks to Facebook and finds out about you without you in the middle. And that's not really nice, right? That isn't really sovereign to the user. And it has lots of other problems, like this is a honeypot for hackers, this is doing centralization, this is building monopolies. This is things that we actually don't want. So we can say this is not good. But when it is not good, why is it then so widely adopted? And the reason for that is it is practical. It is convenient for the user. So if we want to change it, we have two challenges. One challenge is first build a technology which is better, but then make this technology so accessible and so easy to use that people will actually switch from the one thing to the other. When we make it complicated, they will just stay there, right? So, from the technological side, actually we are in quite good shape because people were starting to work on the Web3 a couple of years ago. We have IPFS already since 2015. We have the Decentralized Identity Foundation since 2017. We have Kusama and Polkadot, which are the foundation for building blockchains which can concentrate on doing one thing well, which is definitely needed for identity because it needs high throughput, it needs reasonable cost and all those things. And now we are at the point where those blockchains actually start to go live. So we have KILT as a blockchain for digital identity, and we have applications on top of that, like the SocialKYC service and like Sporran. And all those things are actually launching in 2021. So what will a digital identity look like in Web3? We re-empower the user. We have the user in the center right now. Trusted entities, we call them attesters, are sending their credentials to the user. The user stores the credentials, has control over the credentials and also over the keys. And then if the user wishes, she can share some of those credentials or parts of the credentials with services and verifiers. So this gives the power back to the user. Of course, the whole thing is held together by a blockchain down below, as you see. Now, as said, the user is holding her keys and he's holding her credentials. Well, how does she do that? They are definitely not on the blockchain because they are with her, right? So we need an application for that. That's the first application I'd like to talk about a bit. It's called Sporran. And the Sporran is the KILT wallet. By the way, the little purse that people wear in front of their kilts is also called Sporran. This is what where the name comes from. So what is a Sporran? It is a KILT wallet. On first sight, it behaves like a normal crypto wallet. It creates accounts, it shows you balances, it can initiate coin transfers. But on second look, it is very much unlike a crypto wallet because it can also create DIDs and store those DIDs on the KILT blockchain. And it can store and maintain and sign and share credentials for you. So it is much more actually like a physical wallet where you have some coins in, but you also have some credentials in, like your passport or so. So we're moving a little bit more into the real world here. So first thing we do when we have a Sporran is obviously that we create an account and that we generate a DID. And this DID is generated locally. You don't have to share it with anyone, but you can share it. You can also anchor it on the blockchain. I'm not going to go into the details of how DID actually work. There's going to be a Substrate seminar on June 1st, I think. Maybe someone puts in the chat the link to that. Some devs are going to explain exactly what's happening, how this is working, and how they've implemented it. Okay, now we have the DID. Now let's add some credentials to that. And this is what SocialKYC is good for. SocialKYC, you all heard about the term KYC probably, is know your customer. This is what you need when you sign up for a bank account or something. I don't want to question this process. It is okay and is very useful in lots of use cases. But there are many use cases where the normal KYC or the government issued credentials KYC is actually not so useful. Just imagine I want to play an online game with some guy in China, and I want to make sure that I'm playing with the right person. So will it help me to see his passport? Probably not. Will it help me to find out where he lives? Probably not. What I'm interested in is that this is the guy I know from Twitter. I'm interested in that this is the guy with this email address. I'm interested in this is the guy with the Discord account that I know, right? So in the internet, we can prove our identity in a little bit different way than with the government-issued credentials. And this is what SocialKYC is for. SocialKYC can be used by people to prove their control over their social network accounts or over the email address or phone number or something. When this is proved, the user receives a verifiable credential and stores it in the Sporran and then can show it to multiple services like gaming labs, maybe in the future also exchanges. And the most important thing about the SocialKYC service is it is not a data silo. As soon as the credential is issued, SocialKYC forgets about the user and the whole transaction completely and never stores it anywhere. So how does that work on a technical level? Well, we have the user already here. The user has her Sporran. She also has a DID. She also has already 3 verifiable credentials, and now she wants to have something validated by SocialKYC. So, for example, her email address. So she sends her email address to SocialKYC, and then SocialKYC, sorry, wrong click. Then SocialKYC issues a small challenge for her, which would be, we just sent you an email. This email has a link. Please click on the link to prove that you really control this email account. The user sees that, goes in her inbox, clicks the link, so completes the challenge. And of course, SocialKYC monitors that and sees that the link is clicked. And when the link is clicked, obviously, this user controls this email account. SocialKYC can then make a hash of a credential, put it on the KILT blockchain, and also mark it as valid. As a last step, or last but one step, SocialKYC will issue the credential to the Sporran of the user. The user can then check the validity of her credential on the KILT blockchain, and SocialKYC can forget about the whole process. So now the user is in possession of this credential, and now she probably wants to show it somewhere. So she interacts with the service. That could be a newsletter site or something, so she wants to sign on there. And the service asks her, do you have an email credential? And the Sporran pops up and says, yeah, we have an email credential. Do you want to share it? And then the user signs it, and the Sporran sends it over to the service. So the service can now look it up on the KILT blockchain if there's the hash of this credential, and if it is valid. And if it's valid, then the whole process is through. So that's how it is. Very easy, actually. Let's have a small look how this looks in practice. So first, we do the process of adding a SocialKYC credential. So first thing that you see here is a browser. This browser has, on the upper right corner, there's a little blue thing. This is the Sporran extension, which is already installed here. And the user goes to a website where the SocialKYC service is, and now wants to have his email credentials. So I want my email credential now. So I click on email. This drops down a bit. I can put my name and my email address in here and say request attestation. So when I request the attestation, the service, SocialKYC, starts to communicate with my browser, and the browser pops up the Sporran extension. And I see already, I don't know if you can see that, and this is an email credential. It's for Ingo at KILT.io. It is signed by SocialKYC, and I can now give it a name. And I can sign this thing with my password, and then I can click accept. And when I click accept, SocialKYC is going to send me an email. So let's check the inbox. So I have my email here. It's from SocialKYC. I confirm my challenge. And now SocialKYC just tells me, okay, this has been written on the blockchain, or the hash has been written on the blockchain, and I can now save my credential in my Sporran. So I click here on Save Credential. Sporran pops up again and says, we just received this credential. I can, because this is just a browser extension, right? I can, it would be nice if I save this somewhere on my hard disk. So I can save the credential on my hard disk as well. And I'm done. So this is the process of acquiring credentials. And this is what you do in 1% of the cases. Normally, you show your credential. Now let's see how that looks, showing your credential. So presenting part of my digital identity to a service. Very simple service here. We have a newsletter service. I can either type in my name and type in my email address, receive an email, click on the link to my as a consent. Okay, that would be a little bit complicated. It's much easier to sign up with SocialKYC. So I click the Sign Up SocialKYC button, and what pops up is my Sporran. It shows me the valid credential, email credential from SocialKYC. So it's already selected. I just have to put in my password here and say I want to share the credential with the service, and that's it. Because now the service and the extension speak together. The service, like this newsletter service, checks on the blockchain if the credential was valid, and I'm done. Right. So this is now not more complicated than signing up with Facebook, actually. So we think this is quite a nice idea, and it gives the sovereignty back to the user. So I think we are already now. Timeline, this is always important. This thing isn't live. Version 1 of the Sporran, which has coins only, will launch shortly before the go live of the KILT mainnet. Version 2 with the credentials will launch approximately 2 to 3 months later when we have the full decentralization of the KILT network. And in parallel with that, version 1 of the SocialKYC, including a few social networks, will be released. And towards the end of the year, we're going to add functionality for also proving ownership of your crypto accounts in there, probably for Polkadot and Kusama, of course, but probably also some more. So who's working with us on projects, including SocialKYC, Galani projects? Of course, there are development partners. We have Polkadot and Fractal, interesting project. We have DBio from the genetics field. We have GameDAO. I think the name says it all. And of course, Subsocial. I think everyone in the audience knows those guys. So I'm already through with the talk. We can switch to Q&A if you like.
Thank you very much, Ingo. We have a few questions here in the chat. I think the first question here is interesting, actually from Brian, our DJ. How do you, what's your adoption strategy for social KYC? And I think maybe you can maybe also talk about sort of, I don't know if say competitors, but other like sort of Web3 login solutions that are in the marketplace now. How are you looking at rolling out social KYC to a larger user base?
Yeah, I think the key in adoption or for adoption actually lies in partnerships. This is why we start partnerships already now. And everyone with cool projects which might need social KYC is already invited to talk to us, and we are going to open up the interface, of course. It's all open source, so that people can start interacting and spreading the word about that, because we think there's a lot of use cases actually out there for social KYC. We just have to find them, or they have to find us. Right? So this is basically the adoption strategy. Like every good open source project, we do it via corporations.
Yeah, for sure. So there's already some sort of base level identity functionality being built into Polkadot, whether there's the registrar system or other existing sort of identity features. Are you using or extending any of those? And if not, sort of what was the design decision in building it all within your Parachain?
Well, the things which are implemented inside Substrate are not the standards, DIDs, and verifiable credentials. It's basic identity functionality, which is great and which can definitely be somehow linked together with what we do. Well, it's all one chain in the end, right? So via XCMP or so, we will find ways to also incorporate that. But the identity functionality, which includes verifiable credentials, delegation trees, revocation of delegations and of attestations. This is a highly complex thing, and I don't think that something like that actually belongs, well, somewhere on the relay chain or so. This has to be a parachain because it is really a complex and it's a use case which is so widely used and produces so much load that it justifies its own chain.
Yeah, someone else in the chat asked, so this sounds like an amazing thing. It should be a common good? And I think, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I would push back against that and say a common good chain, because you generally have to use DOT or KSM on that chain. It's not necessarily a model that is cut out for the token economics of something like this. Is that right, or what are your thoughts around that?
That's a complex question going into the token economics. We have some, I think, quite good ideas about how you can make token economics around that. But the guy who asked the question is definitely right. It is something where those credentials or saving those credentials on the blockchain cannot be extensively expensive, right? Because then people just can't use it, or people just won't use it. If storing my credential on the blockchain or storing the hash costs like 20 euros or something, then people probably don't want to accumulate many credentials. Because when you look at the whole credentialing business models, the real work is done by the attester, because the attester has to find out if the attestation should be issued or not. This is real work, and this work has to be paid. And if we take the money away there and put it into the blockchain, then it's wrong. So you need complex business ideas around a token economy when you want to have something like that successfully and efficiently running. And we put some of those ideas in there, but we have also seen projects in the past, not saying names, which worked in the field of identity and were not really successful. And I think we learned a lot from them, and we make it a little bit different.
Yeah, identity is a very hard problem and a crucial one to solve. Sort of interested in sort of where you think sort of building off social KYC, where it can go sort of beyond just web logins. There's a couple people asking about the potential sort of nation state implications if something like this really gains adoption. Where your thoughts are in terms of like what this could actually be expanded towards, like just a broader digital ID, either whether it's for a business to run for their employees or for a nation state to integrate into the way it manages a citizen's engagement with its government.
My feeling is that nation states will probably need a couple of years, if not to say decades, to adopt a system like that. That's probably not what we should look at. I think we should look at use cases which are much closer to us. So what we see right now we had this idea a couple of months ago and are now starting to talk about it a little bit. And what came in first is actually people who do gaming. Next thing which came in is people who do education. So this can be really interesting for it. And not all education is a university or a school. There's also NGOs doing education and those. So those things are actually piling up now and wanting to adopt this technology. I think it also has. When we incorporate the crypto addresses, then I think DeFi is also going to be a space where it is really needed and probably very, very nicely adopted. But I think it's dangerous to first go with the nation states because the nation states are not ready and willing to do something like that. Maybe they adopt later.
The
blockchain
blockchain
in 20
governance
years.
makes more sense to go first. Adding another layer to sort of reputation systems and identity in on-chain governance is, I think, certainly a better place to go first. Ingo, thank you very much. Everyone stick around. We'll be back soon with our next community talk.